I hate that I have to do this, but it's been 2 years since I've talked about third-party Nintendo Switch docks and why they're no good for your Switch. And there's been some developments since then. For some reason, they're still making third-party Switch docks. Every time a new Kickstarter pops up for one, people send it to me and ask, is this one safe? It's worth revisiting the topic. But I'll give you the conclusion right now. You don't even have to watch the whole video. I will still never recommend a third-party dock or charger over the Nintendo one. There are some potentially safe alternatives, but if a doctor told you that it was potentially safe to smoke cigarettes, would you risk losing your Animal Crossing save? I mean, your life to lung cancer? I'll try to catch you up to speed as best I can. The Nintendo Switch has a USB-C charge port, right? We can all agree on that? USB-C is a standardized port that a lot of mobile device manufacturers are opting for now, which is great for consumers because it means we just need one cable to charge all of our devices. Except Apple, of course. This was very cool of Nintendo to do, and very unlike them. They've historically had weird ports and chargers and adapters for all of their devices. In order for all of these different devices to use the same standardized cables, the USB power delivery protocol was developed so that you don't accidentally plug your USB-C device into a different USB-C charger and fry it. The power delivery standard accepts 5, sometimes 9, 12, and 20 volts. The Nintendo Switch says, "F your power delivery standard, we're gonna use 6. This is where things get technically confusing. I'm not an electrical engineer. I'm a graphic designer that now makes YouTube videos and yells about Mario. The general consensus is that the Switch has the capability of complying with USB PD standards, but just doesn't. In a previous video, I mentioned Nathan K's Google Plus post, which had a lot of great information in it. Unfortunately, since then, Google Plus ripped. Since then, there's been a Reddit post by Vector Driver who cites Nathan K's post and says, yes, he's right. The Switch does ask for 0.5 amps and then draws 1.5 amps, which is a 300% increase in power that it draws. But the Switch frequently draws 2 amps by itself, so 1.5 amps shouldn't be enough to fry the Switch. Now, as a not electrical engineer, I just have a quick little question. It's probably not exactly good for the Switch though, right? Vector Driver states that the problem is non-USB PD compliant chargers and docks, since the Switch does have the capability to handle USB PD protocols, according to him. And a spec sheet he cited to a part that is probably identical to one that the Nintendo Switch has inside of it, but it's unconfirmed. And there's the fact that the Nintendo Switch dock's USB-C head is ever so slightly thinner than a normal USB-C head in order to allow the Switch to easily slide in and out of the dock. I'll leave a link to his post in the description. It has a lot of very good information in it, and he cites his sources. However, I should mention that he is the lead engineer on the Genki Covert dock, so he has a little bit of a financial incentive. All this technical mumbo-jumbo aside, we do know that some aftermarket docks can brick your Switch, the most famous case being the Nyko dock. According to Vector Driver, when the Switch asks for 6 volts, the Nyko dock would provide 9. What's still unclear is why this bricking seemed to happen more frequently when the firmware 5.0.0 update came out. This firmware update was like a death sentence to a lot of Switches hibernating on third-party docks. It's possible that Nintendo changed something about the way that it draws power from the dock when it's outputting video to a TV. The Switch draws varying amounts of power depending on how much GPU usage it's using. Not even Nyko themselves could figure this one out after the whole dock controversy. What boggles my mind is that this is such an uncertain market of cheap products that have the potential of ruining your expensive product that has priceless save data living inside of it. Right now, there's no way to transfer or back up your Animal Crossing save data. So if something happens to your Switch, say goodbye to your island. Meanwhile, look at all of these Switch docks that exist, and they're still coming. The most recent being this Jumpgate Dock. This one was actually the impetus of this video because, again, everyone was asking me about it. This one's unique because it has a Bluetooth adapter built in, which is something that the Switch dock could benefit from. Actually, no, I take that back. The Switch has Bluetooth capabilities. It just doesn't let you use it for audio for some stupid reason. So Nintendo doesn't need to put Bluetooth in the dock. Nintendo just needs to allow Bluetooth audio on the Switch. This is another one that supports the USB PD protocol. That includes voltages that, oh, look at that, don't include 6 volts. I'll remind you again that the Switch doesn't exactly use the USB PD protocol to draw power. I'd like to take a moment to say that the USB PD protocol is a little bit confusing. I'm seeing some literature online that's saying that it supports 5 volts, 9 volts, 12 volts, 20 volts. I'm seeing some that says it supports 15 volts. I don't know. All I know is that Vector Driver says that the problem is that the Switch draws 6 volts, and Nathan K says that part of the problem was that the Switch draws 15 volts, and the whole 300% more ampage situation. Regardless the muddy technical details, what's very clear is that the Switch has a problem. Now, all that being said, it's not all doom and gloom. I'd be willing to bet that you're mostly fine if you have a USB PD compliant dock or charger. iMore has a list of docks that they seem to trust. They list the Jumpgate Dock, which is another one people keep asking me about. I like the fact that the inside can slide out, so much so that I used it for my MacBook and lost it. I did not like how tight the SD and micro SD card slots were. I had to rip out some SD cards out of there. It felt like it was a little poorly made. But I mean, you're not getting that dock for the SD card slot. You're getting it as a Nintendo Switch dock. They also list the Gully Kit dock, which I have somewhere. The Insignia dock, the Ikedon dock, and the Rieka dock. Those last two just look like cheap Amazon stuff. I'm not sure what about those made the cut. Honestly, I'm not sure what about any of these made the cut. They said that they did the research. Can I see that research? But even on this site, it says, while these third-party manufacturers have taken precautions to create a device that works with current Switch software and updates, it's possible that a future software update from Nintendo could cause problems at any moment. You know, like what happened with the Nyko dock. So if Nintendo could just make a slight change that completely invalidates any USB PD compliant dock or charger, why would you risk getting anything other than an official Nintendo dock or charger? There's one final bit to this story just to confuse you even more. A few months back, I noticed that nobody was selling official Nintendo Switch docks, and if they were marked up like crazy. Look at this, Nintendo Switch dock, $185 on Amazon. And this is the regular listing. They weren't on Amazon, they weren't on store shelves. The official Nintendo store in New York didn't have any. Nintendo's official site didn't have them. They only had refurbished ones. The site also linked to retailers like Amazon and Best Buy, but if you clicked on the Best Buy link, it took you straight to the page for the Insignia dock. Oh, they linked straight to the Insignia one from the Nintendo website. That's crazy.
Oh, wow.
That's crazy. I didn't know that. That's insane. Insane's maybe a little overboard. We're just talking about a Nintendo Switch dock here. Insignia, if you don't know, is Best Buy's brand. So this is Best Buy's branded Nintendo Switch dock. And I made sure that Nintendo wasn't just linking to a general Nintendo Switch search on the Best Buy's website or anything, or that Best Buy was forwarding to the Insignia dock. No, it looked like Nintendo was specifically linking straight to the Insignia dock. Now, with all that being said, I'm still of the mind that there is no reason to buy a third-party Nintendo Switch dock or charger. If you want something cheaper, you're risking potentially harming your Switch and costing you even more money. If you want something smaller and more portable, which is reasonable, get the Bass Top replacement shell, which is very cheap and very easy to modify. It just takes your original Nintendo Switch dock and puts it in a much smaller case. It's what I use when I'm traveling. I have a video on how this modification works. It's very simple. If you can't find an official Nintendo Switch dock for whatever reason, buy a refurbished one. They're almost always in stock on Nintendo's refurbished website. That's what I used for this bass top mod. I think they were only $40, so they're way cheaper. The only problem is they don't come with a charger, which the brand new Nintendo dock would come with a charger. And for the love of Jesus Christ, make sure you're buying the official Nintendo charger. I noticed in my last video about this, I mentioned to buy the official Nintendo Switch charger, and I showed a picture of a non-official one. I got duped. Third-party companies are still going to be releasing Switch docks. No, I don't want to review them. I don't like making videos where I just all over a product. This should be enough for you to realize that it's probably just not a good idea to get anything other than the official Nintendo Switch dock or charger. However, this is probably not the end of this story. Now, I ain't no electrical engineer, but I did purchase myself a voltmeter and a watt meter. So if I make any interesting discoveries on any of these guys, then I'll be sure to update you in another video, or maybe I'll do it in a tweet or something. Check the description or the pinned comment later this week. I'll let you know if there's any updates. If there's no video, then that means there's nothing interesting or nothing that I didn't already say in this video. The problem is, even if I test the dock and everything's fine and it seems exactly the same as an official Nintendo Switch dock, Nintendo could just release an update and completely invalidate it. So why would you ever even get anything other than a Nintendo? Have I made myself perfectly clear yet this far into the video? And I don't want it to seem like this is in defense of Nintendo. I think that this is really messed up of Nintendo to do. It should be power delivery compliant, but it's not in whatever way. And because of that, third-party docks and chargers, they could potentially ruin your So it's because of Nintendo's poor design that I can't recommend any of this other stuff. We're done. Anyway, what do you guys think about these third-party docks and chargers? Do you have one? Have you been thinking about getting one? Are you glad that I stopped you? Are you risking it all right now because you wanted something smaller or cheaper? Yeah, I'm sure you have some choice words for me with your buyer's remorse. Leave it in the comments below, add me on Twitter, and any and all this other social media garbage. Of course, we got new videos and live streams all the time. Our schedule is usually in a pinned tweet on our Twitter, and we got Wulff Den Live every single Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time here on YouTube. That's our live podcast where we can chat with you. And we got Twitch streams over on twitch.tv/WulffDen. I could be live right now as you're watching this. That way we can talk right there. Also, you know what? If you've got any other ideas on how I can test this stuff, let me know, because I want to get to the bottom of this stuff myself with my own eyeballs. But of course, the most important thing that you can do and the easiest thing to help support the channel is just subscribe and share this video with a friend. A friend who wants to get an additional dock, maybe has one of these Kickstarter projects. Anyway, thank you guys very much. Have yourself a very